Most developers use AI to code faster today, but they're missing the bigger opportunity, building a system that makes them faster tomorrow and every day after. There's a workflow called compound engineering, where every piece of work is an investment. Every code review teaches the system something new. Every bug fix becomes a rule that it won't break again. And unlike a regular AI session where you lose everything when you hit the context limit, this knowledge persists. And more importantly, it compounds. In this video, I'll build a feature for an already existing code base for my own blog, and I'll build an image generator, review the code, ship it, and then show how the system learns from the process and how it will be smarter in all the future sessions. Let's build. So what is compound engineering? First, let's have a look how most people use AI coding tools. You prompt the tool, then it writes code, then you ship it, and then you start over blank slate from scratch. Compound engineering flips this process. Each task makes the next one easier. But this isn't just like AI remembers things. This is a process where your feedback becomes defaults for the future, written down in config files and applied automatically to every future task. The full workflow has 5 steps. The first one is Brainstorm, where you talk to AI back and forth. If you've seen my previous video about letting Claude interview you to build a spec, this is that, but better, and it's just the first part of the system. So instead of you crafting the perfect interview prompt, you just run /workflow brainstorm and describe what you want. And then that interview process starts. Claude asks you the non-obvious questions, surfaces some edge cases, and writes the full spec for you. Then comes the planning stage. The agents research a code base, search the web, and create detailed specs based on that and root it in your own code base. Next is the actual work, where agents execute the plan. And if the first 2 steps were done properly, then this is the easy part. After the work comes review. A pack of specialized agents reviews the code in parallel and gives you the results. And the last part, and where the magic happens, is the compound part. You capture what you have learned in this session, feed it back into the system, and when you go back to part 1 and again do plan, work, and review, it starts compounding with every session. It starts getting smarter and working better and knowing more about you, your system, and your requirements than it knew at the beginning. The important part with this workflow, or probably with any AI workflow, is to spend 80% of your time on planning and review, and only 20% on coding. If your plan is good, the coding is practically automatic. Now let's install this plugin and see what it can do. Installation is 2 commands for Claude Code. You add a marketplace and you install the plugin. You can also do it for OpenCode and Codex, but this is in experimental stage yet. And with this one plugin, you get 27 different agents, 20 commands they can use, 14 different skills, and 1 MCP server. So what can all those 27 agents do? 14 of them review your code base from different perspectives. 4 of them can do research. 3 of them are for design. 5 are for workflows, 1 for docs. You get different skills that those agents can use. And on top of that, with Context 7 MCP server, you can access docs for over 100 libraries that are always up to date, so you don't work on some outdated code or library info. Now let's go and put all those agents to good use. Step 1 is optional, but in my opinion, it's crucial. It's this step where AI interviews you and asks you all those helpful questions. You can skip it and go straight to plan, but that's only useful when you have a very narrowly defined function or feature and you know all the constraints and boundaries, so you just want to quickly plan and be done with it. But when it requires a little bit of thinking how it fits and how it works together with different pieces, then brainstorming is where you start. So let's start this process. Fire up Claude. I already have the workflows installed through those two commands. So first workflow is brainstorm. Now I definitely want to brainstorm here because we are working on the existing code base. This is my blog. It's a Next.js file with MDX where I edit everything in Markdown rather than CMS. So let's start the conversation and see where it takes us. I want to add AI-generated header images for when I publish an article. So let's see how we can do it easily. It figured out my setup. It knows the patterns, what goes where, and how those images are included in the articles. Now it starts interviewing me and asking questions. Okay, it went through all the steps of the brainstorm stage, and it asked a lot of good questions. How and where to put that image, how to generate, should it be a CLI, a pre-commit hook, or something else? Do I want a consistent branded style for all the articles or just per article, depending on what it is about? It asked if it should generate the image based on the article content, which I said yes, with an option to also add my own prompt if I want. I told it what visual style I want for overarching brand. We decided on a CLI as a way to generate the image. It explained me all the approaches. It recommended one of them so I could make an informed decision. And now it's ready to go to the next step. The next step is planning. If the brainstorm step was done properly, then planning is really easy. Let's see what the brainstorm step generated. So it added a new docs folder and a subfolder for brainstorms. And now it has a full summary of that. So what we are building, how it will be used, what the script is going to do, why we decided on this approach, what were the key decisions made and why. So already the system learns and remembers what decisions were made, why they're made like this, and what are the open questions that are not answered yet. With this brainstorm doc, it's easy to just go to the next step with planning. If you haven't done brainstorm, then planning would be similar to brainstorm, where you describe your feature briefly, and if it needs, it asks a few words and proceeds to plan the whole work based and rooted in your code base. We are now ready to create the implementation plan. Okay, a lot has happened during this planning stage. It took the brainstorm file that was generated, immediately launched 2 agents already to first research the repo, and another agent learnings researcher, which learns from that brainstorm document with already the findings there. And the more documents there are in the future, the more useful will be that learnings researcher. It figured out the patterns of the code base, where everything goes, and realized that this task involves an external API for Nano Banana. And it went and looked at the most up-to-date docs for Nano Banana Pro API, made some decisions or suggestions, and then another agent analyzed everything that was generated by previous agents, identified a few key gaps, filled them in, and consolidated everything into the plan. And that's another document here. So within docs, now there's a folder plans, and there is a plan to implement my feature. So what we are building, what's the proposed solution, what's the flow, what are the technical considerations, and what are the acceptance criteria, and created the whole implementation plan start to finish. And the next steps are either immediately go to the next step in the workflow, or we can run more agents to review that plan and see if it can be made better. And I want to do that. The plan review process immediately launched 3 agents in parallel to review it. DHH was reviewing the plan. Kiran, which is one of the creators of the workflow and the process, and a code simplicity reviewer. And all three of them had something to say and something to suggest, pointed out some positives, some issues, code quality, several blocking issues identified, and Simplicity Agent recommended generating only one image instead of two, which totally makes sense. Now there are recommended changes to plan. I can review that, make decisions on what makes sense, what doesn't. I agree with the suggestions, so I'll apply fixes. So now it started working on the changes to the implementation plan. And as soon as it finishes, it will continue to the next step, to the working stage. With all the work that we put in previous steps, this one should be now very easy. Everything should happen automatically or almost. So the work is now finished. Let's see what it accomplished. Everything is straightforward. So we did our job, switched to a new branch, created tasks to complete, and then went through doing all the work, hitting some errors, fixing them, updating the implementation plan with what has been done, creating the commit, and giving the summary. So on this new branch, it created a new script that I can call with a CLI, what was modified, dependencies added, and how to run this script. Default based on article content or article content plus my prompt that I want to customize. Setup required, what I need to do. What it missed is that I do not have .env local. I just have .env file. It assumed .env local because it doesn't know about .env file existence, because it is not added to a repository. It's in gitignore file. So Claude doesn't see that file and doesn't know what's inside. So I'm telling it that it needs to assume that it's in that file and that I already have that API key set. It updated the script, generated a test image, reviewed if it fits the style. Classical art meets modern tech. Notice that it's too large, 1.7 megabytes. Addressed that and tested again, created a new image, which is now much smaller. It already put everything where it needs to be. So the content of the article was updated and also the image was put in here. And this is classical art meets modern tech. Seems fine to me. I can fine tune the prompt later, but looking good and everything is already in place. So the work part is done and now we are ready to go to the review part. I'm now ready to unleash a bunch of agents into my code and see what they can find there. And the work part has been completed. I'm at 75% context window, so might as well start new. And now workflow review. It's done now. And this part is always super interesting to me. And I read everything that the agents produce. So what happens here is I could have given a maybe PR number or a branch here, but because we are on this branch and there is only one PR, it automatically picked up that we are working on this specific feature, and it started reviewing it PR number 1, and it unleashed 6 agents, 1 from security perspective, 1 from performance perspective, architecture strategist, code simplicity, pattern recognition, and agent native. All of them look at the same piece of code from different perspectives and from their point of view, and finding the recommendation, the fixes, the errors there. Luckily, this time there are no P1 critical findings, so nothing blocking. There are a couple important ones: no API timeout, no structured output, and 4 nice to haves. It gives details for everyone, the location of the file, what's the issue, what's the recommendation. It says what's working well so that we also know what's going on in our code base, what agents were used, what's the verdict, it's safe to merge, but we can fix P2 findings or P2 and P3. And what are the next steps? I want to implement P2 findings. P3, nice to haves, will be for later. It's now done and everything is now ready to commit. And these are not just generic looks good type of reviews. Each agent is specialized, and standard AI reviews are polite. They want to please you, but these agents are built and trained to protect you, not to be nice to you. So they find real issues if the issues are there. Everything is now built and tested. So now let's see it in action. Let's find an article that doesn't have a header image, straight consistency, doesn't have a header image, and the slug URL is consistency. So let's try that. npm run generate image, and the slug is consistency. Let's do it. This generated the image based on the article content, processed so that it's compressed, saved it in the dimension that I wanted, and updated the front matter so that it's now a header image as well. Let's see if it worked. So this is my online version, and I now have the local version here, consistency, generated image for consistency. Maybe not perfect, but I like it. And already everything is updated and live and ready to push. I'm now ready to commit it and to go to the last step and where the magic happens, the compound step. I'm now ready to start reaping the benefits of this compounding system. Every time I go through this loop, my agents are getting better and better. So this is the first time I'm teaching those agents, and it will benefit me every single time after. Workflow, compound. This now looks at all the review comments from agents, from me, from all the conversations and the documents that it added. It extracts patterns and updates my configuration automatically. This step does a lot of heavy lifting, and I love the results and output. So 4 agents start working in parallel, analyzing docs, extracting them, classifying, and then the prevention strategist. So what have we learned and how can we prevent any similar issues in the future? It created a bunch of different files. First one is for this specific solution, which has a summary of what has been done. But more interestingly, it has code review checklist, code-based analysis, prevention strategies, testing API and CLI, and this is the README of the summary of what's in these files. So what we have identified, what to do for when doing a code review. It created even a CLI template, testing patterns and examples, quick reference for code reviewers, for writing new scripts, for retrofitting existing code. And this is why it's called compound engineering. Every review you give makes the next review better. And you're not just fixing code as you go. You are teaching the system so that that system can build together with you from now on. And with the compounding part of this process, you give that feedback once and the system learns and you never say it again. But why does all of this matter? The full workflow from brainstorm through planning, working, review, and especially compounding and then repeating the loop. The team at Every, they built this plugin, says that this workflow lets them ship much faster and deliver a much higher quality code. Features that took a week now ship in 1 to maybe 3 days. And the plugin now has over 6,000 stars on GitHub, is actively developed by both the team at Every and a team of contributors. So it's not just me finding this useful, it's a real workflow in production. Now, I can't promise you that you will see the same results, but if you follow these steps as we did, and you put in the time into the brainstorming, planning, and review session, then every piece of work makes the next one easier and the gains compound over time. And with this workflow, it's kind of a mindset shift. You stop asking, how do I code this or how do I fix this? And you start thinking, what should the system learn from this, from what I'm doing? One note on cost. Spinning up a dozen agents does use more tokens than a single prompt, although it's not as bad as I thought, because during this entire workflow, I only reset context once, and now I'm at 50% of context window. So it's rather decent. But even if it's more, you trade tokens for fewer human hours, fewer production incidents, fewer frustrations during review, and just faster shipping. If you want to try this, first install the plugin, and then on your next feature, start with workflows Brainstorm and see how parallel research changes your planning. Second, start small with compounding. Maybe create one additional custom agent that captures your review style, just your top 5 annoyances, for example, and let it grow on you. And third, use workflows compounds after your first code review, and then watch your feedback turn into permanent rules. And that's where it clicks. AI coding tools make you faster today. Compound engineering makes you faster tomorrow and every day after that. The plugin is free, the link is below, and your AI is waiting to learn from you. Now go teach your AI something for a change.